Have you ever thought that you and Einstein might have something in common? No, I'm not referring to his disheveled hair. I'm talking about those characteristics that make a brilliant mind. In this video, we'll explore the 11 signs that experts have identified as indicators of outstanding intelligence. The last sign will leave you amazed, and who knows, you might discover that you've been a genius in disguise all this time. Before diving into these signs, if you find value in these videos, please subscribe and click the bell to stay updated. Let's get started. Have you ever wondered if you're smarter than you think? Well, get ready, because we're about to dive into the first sign that could reveal that your brain is an authentic hidden treasure. And no, it's not about your ability to remember the lyrics to all reggaeton songs, although that's impressive too. We're talking about insatiable curiosity, that mental itch that drives you to want to know the why behind everything. Does it sound familiar? If you find yourself constantly asking questions, seeking answers, and exploring new ideas, congratulations. You might be displaying the first sign of exceptional intelligence. As the great Leonardo da Vinci said, curiosity is the mother of all knowledge. And he knew what he was talking about. This Renaissance genius was not content just being a painter. He was also an inventor, scientist, mathematician, engineer, and even a cook in his spare time. Well, the last part I just made up, but I wouldn't be surprised. You don't have to be a Renaissance genius to cultivate curiosity. In your daily life, you can start by questioning what you take for granted. Why is the sky blue? How does Wi-Fi really work? Why does my neighbor insist on singing opera at 3 a.m.? Well, some questions are better left unanswered. Curiosity not only makes you smarter, but also connects you with a fundamental principle of Stoicism, amor fati, or love of fate. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius taught us to embrace everything that happens to us with curiosity and openness. Even difficult situations can be opportunities to learn and grow. Now, if you're thinking, but I'm not curious, I'm lost, don't worry. Curiosity is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Try this every day, learn something new. It could be a fun fact, a word in another language, or how to make origami with grocery receipts. You never know when it might come in handy. And if you need inspiration, think about great curious minds in history. Albert Einstein once said, "I have no special talents, but I am passionately curious." If curiosity was enough for Einstein, imagine what it can do for you. Remember, true intelligence isn't about having all the answers, but asking the right questions. So the next time you find yourself wondering why pigeons bob their heads while walking, don't hold back. That curiosity could be a sign that your brain is ready to conquer the world, or at least win the next trivia game. Have you ever felt like life throws a bucket of cold water in your face? Well, hold on, because we're about to dive into the second sign of intelligence, adaptability to challenges. And no, it's not about your ability to dodge puddles on rainy days, although that has its merit too. Adaptability is like the secret superpower of brainy people. It's the ability to juggle problems and come out on top, like a cat always landing on its feet. A study from the University of Michigan showed that people with high emotional intelligence are more adaptable and resilient. Who would have thought? It turns out being an emotional chameleon makes you smarter. But what does philosophy say about this? Well, our Stoic friends had something to add. The concept of living in accordance with nature doesn't mean going around hugging trees, although, if you want to, go ahead. It's about adapting to the natural flow of things. As Marcus Aurelius said, don't complain about the cold water, swim in it. Imagine for a moment that you are like water. Water adapts to any container. It can be a glass, a bottle, or even that Jell-O mold shaped like a rabbit that your grandmother brings out at Christmas. Adaptive intelligence is exactly that, molding your mind to fit any situation. And speaking of unexpected situations, have you ever shown up at a costume party and been the only one in costume? There's a perfect opportunity to practice your adaptability. You could say you're a human infiltrator at a no-costume party. Boom, 100% adaptation. But seriously, adaptability isn't just for funny situations. It's an essential skill in a world that changes faster than fashion trends on social media. As Charles Darwin, the evolution guy, said, "It is not the strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." So how can we cultivate this superpower? First, embrace change as if it were your favorite uncle at Christmas. Second, practice the yes, and instead of blocking yourself in the face of challenges, accept the situation and add something new. And third, remember that every obstacle is a disguised opportunity. Sometimes the disguise is really good and hard to see, but it's there. The next time you face a challenge, imagine you're a ninja of adaptability, mental flexibility, quick thinking, and maybe an occasional somersault, optional but impressive. Remember, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. But with adaptability, you can even enjoy that chocolate filled with something weird that no one else wants. Have you ever tried to explain something and felt like a cat trying to untangle a ball of yarn? Well, get ready because we're about to unravel the third sign of intelligence, the ability to simplify the complex. And no, it's not about your talent for summarizing a 200-episode soap opera into 3 sentences. True intelligence shines when you can take a convoluted idea and make it as clear as crystal water. As the great Albert Einstein once said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And Einstein certainly knew about complicated things. He explained the universe with a 5-letter equation. But you don't need to be a physics genius to master this art. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminded us, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. So before simplifying, admit that you don't know everything. Surprise, that humility is the first step towards mental clarity. So how can we put this skill into practice? Imagine you have to explain how the internet works to your grandmother. No, saying it's magic won't work. Try breaking it down into simple ideas. Networks, information traveling, computers talking to each other. Boom, you've just simplified something complex. And speaking of simplification, the Stoics were masters of this. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reduced happiness to a simple formula. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. You don't need a PhD in philosophy to understand that, right? But be careful. Simplifying doesn't mean being simplistic. It's like making orange juice. You remove the peel and seeds but keep all the flavor and nutrition. Cognitive psychologist Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner, showed that our brain prefers simple, easy-to-process information. So when you simplify, not only do you make yourself better understood, but you also make your message more memorable. Here's a practical exercise for you. Take a complicated concept from your work or hobby and explain it to a 10-year-old. If the child understands and doesn't fall asleep in the process, congratulations, you've mastered the art of simplification. Another technique you can use is analogies. Compare the complex with something familiar. For example, the immune system is like an army defending your body. You could even create mental images or simple drawings to represent more complex ideas. Remember, mental clarity not only makes you seem smarter, but also helps you understand the world around you better. As Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So go ahead, be a sophisticated simplifier, a master of mental minimalism, a Picasso of plain words. Your brain and everyone around you will thank you. Have you ever felt like the smartest person in the room, only to realize that you've barely scratched the surface of knowledge? Well, hold on tight, because we're about to dive into the 4th sign of intelligence, self-awareness and humility. And no, it's not about your ability to admit you can't dance salsa, although that counts too. True intelligence shines when you recognize your own limits. It's like having a mental GPS that says recalculating every time you encounter something you don't know. And believe me, that recalculating happens more often than we think. But why is it so important to be aware of what you don't know? It turns out there's a phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which explains why those who know the least often think they know the most. It's like ignorance is a superpower that makes you feel invincible. Spoiler alert, it's not. Imagine for a moment that your brain is like a library. Self-awareness is that grumpy librarian who tells you, you don't know everything, and even though it can be annoying, that librarian is your best friend on the path to true wisdom. The Stoics, those ancient sages, had a lot to say about humility. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and part-time philosopher, wrote, It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Basically, if you think you know everything, you've shut the door to learning and no one wants to be that guy at the party, right? But don't worry. Acknowledging that you don't know something doesn't make you less intelligent. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's like having a secret superpower. While everyone else boasts about what they know, you're there with your humility cape, ready to learn something new. And speaking of learning, did you know that the brightest scientists are often the most humble? It's true. The more they learn, the more they realize how much there is left to discover. It's like the universe is an infinite puzzle, and every piece you fit reveals 1,000 more to solve. So, how can we cultivate this self-awareness and humility? First, practice the art of saying, I don't know, but I'd love to learn. It's like a magical spell that opens doors to knowledge. Second, question your own beliefs. Ask yourself, why do I think this? Could I be wrong? And third, celebrate your mistakes. Yes, you read that right. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn something new. The next time you're tempted to boast about your intelligence, remember, true wisdom lies in knowing that you don't know. It's like being a detective of your own knowledge, always seeking new clues and willing to change theories when evidence appears. And if all this sounds a bit overwhelming, don't worry. Self-awareness and humility are like a muscle. The more you exercise them, the stronger they become. So go ahead, be the Sherlock Holmes of your own brain, always curious, always learning, and always ready to admit when you have no idea. After all, as Socrates said, I know that I know nothing. And look how far that guy got. Before we move on to the fifth sign of highly intelligent people, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel with the bell so you don't miss future videos. And if you enjoy this kind of content as much as I do, comment, I love wisdom. Let's keep learning together and improving our lives. Have you ever felt like you understand others better than they understand themselves? Well, brace yourself, because we're about to dive into the fifth sign of intelligence, empathy and emotional intelligence. And no, it's not about your ability to guess what your partner wants for dinner, though that has its merits too. Emotional intelligence is like the oil that lubricates the wheels of our social relationships. It's the ability to understand and manage both our own emotions and those of others. According to psychologist Daniel Goleman, emotional intelligence is more important for success in life than the famous IQ. Take that, math exams. But what does this have to do with intelligence? Well, a lot, my friend. Imagine for a moment that your brain is like an orchestra. Emotional intelligence would be the conductor, coordinating all the instruments to create a harmonious symphony. Without a good conductor, even the most talented musician would sound like a cat in heat. The Stoics, those old sages, had a concept called philanthropy, which basically means love for humanity. It's about cultivating a deep connection with others, understanding that we are all part of the same great human family. But how can we improve our emotional intelligence? Here are a few techniques. 1. Practice active listening. And no, I don't mean listening while thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. Listen genuinely as if the other person were the episode of your favorite TV show. 2. Name your emotions. If you can identify what you're feeling, it's easier to manage. It's like labeling spice jars. You'll know exactly what to use when the situation calls for it. 3. Put yourself in others' shoes. And no, I don't mean literally, unless they have some really cool shoes. Try to see things from their perspective. The Roman philosopher Seneca said, "We are members of one great body," and he was right. Empathy connects us, makes us stronger as a society. It's like emotional superglue. If you need inspiration, think of great empathetic leaders in history. Nelson Mandela, for example, was able to forgive his captors and unite a divided country. That's high-level emotional intelligence. Remember, it's not just about being nice, it's a crucial skill in an increasingly connected world. As anthropologist Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." So next time you find yourself in an emotionally challenging situation, imagine you're an empathy ninja. Observe, listen, feel, and who knows, you might discover you're smarter than you thought. After all, as Aristotle said, Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, and knowing others, well, that's the next level. Have you ever been so sure of something only to realize you were completely wrong? Don't worry, you're not alone. Now we'll dive into the sixth sign of intelligence, the ability to change your mind. And no, I'm not referring to your ability to choose a restaurant after an hour of indecision. Mental flexibility is like a secret superpower of smart people. It's the ability to say, "Oops, I was wrong," without feeling like the world is falling apart. Adam Grant, in his book Think Again, reminds us that intelligence isn't about having all the answers, but about being willing to question them. Imagine for a moment that your brain is like a mental house. It would be like living in a house with no windows or doors. Safe, you feel protected, but you're missing out on everything happening outside. Mental flexibility, on the other hand, is like having a house with panoramic windows and a Zen garden. You're always ready for a mental remodel. The Stoics, those ancient sages, had a concept called epocha, or suspension of judgment. No, it's not about being silent when your partner asks if that dress looks good on them. It's about not rushing to conclusions and being open to new ideas. As Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone can prove to me that I am wrong and show me that my idea is incorrect, I will gladly change it." But changing your mind isn't easy. Our brains are experts in self-deception. Confirmation bias makes us seek information that supports what we already believe. So, how can we cultivate this mental flexibility? Here are a few tricks. 1. Practice unlearning. Question your deeply held beliefs. It's like doing a spring cleaning of your brain. 2. Actively seek out different viewpoints. 3. Celebrate when you change your mind. It's a sign of growth, not weakness. Psychologist Carl Rogers once said, "The only person who is educated is the one who has learned how to learn and change." So next time you find yourself defending an idea with all your might, stop and ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? It could be the beginning of a great mental adventure. Remember, changing your mind doesn't make you indecisive. It makes you wise. It's like being a mental chameleon, adapting to new ideas and perspectives. And who knows, you might discover you're smarter than you thought. After all, as philosopher Bertrand Russell said, "The problem with the world is that the stupid are confident and the intelligent are full of doubts." Signal number 7. Have you ever felt like your brain is like a detective, always looking for clues and unraveling mysteries? We are about to dive into the next signal of intelligence, the practice of critical thinking. And no, it's not about critiquing the latest superhero movie, although that can be fun too. Critical thinking is like the secret superpower of brainy people. It's the ability to analyze, question, and evaluate information before swallowing it whole like a hungry pelican. As the great Carl Sagan said, "Skeptical thinking is the foundation of science and democracy." And Sagan certainly knew what he was talking about. The guy spent his life searching for extraterrestrial life and still kept his feet on the ground. But what does this have to do with intelligence? Well, a lot, my friend. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a coffee filter. Critical thinking would be that filter that separates the valuable grains of information from the murky water of fake news and biases. Without a good filter, you'd end up drinking a rather unpleasant mental coffee. The Stoics, those ancient wise men, had a concept called discipline of judgment. No, it's not about judging your neighbor's outfit, although they surely had opinions on togas. It refers to the practice of examining our impressions and judgments before accepting them as truth. So, how can we improve our critical thinking? Here are some practical exercises. 1. Play devil's advocate. Question your own beliefs as if you were your worst enemy. It's like a mental sparring partner, but without bruises. 2. Practice the why. Chain questions like a curious child. Ask why to every answer you get. It's like peeling an onion of knowledge, layer by layer. 3. Seek contrary evidence. If you firmly believe something, look for information that contradicts it. It's like exercising your mind, uncomfortable at first, but it makes you stronger. Philosopher Bertrand Russell once said, "Most people would rather die than think. In fact, many do." It sounds dramatic, but he has a point. Critical thinking can be uncomfortable, like exercise for the brain. And if you need inspiration, think of great critical thinkers from history. Socrates, for example, spent his life questioning everything and everyone. Of course, in the end, he was made to drink hemlock. But hey, nobody said being intelligent was easy. Remember, critical thinking isn't about being negative or cynical. It's about being curious, open to new ideas, and at the same time not swallowing everything you're told. As psychologist Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner, said, "Confidence is a feeling, not an assessment." So the next time you feel very sure of something, take a moment to question it. The practice of critical thinking not only makes you smarter, but also protects you from falling into mental traps and manipulations. It's like a shield against stupidity, but way cooler than a regular shield. So the next time you encounter new information, imagine you're a knowledge detective. Observe, question, analyze, and who knows, you might discover that you're smarter than you thought. After all, as Aristotle said, it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And you, my dear friend, are on your way to having a very, very educated mind. We are about to dive into the 8th signal of intelligence, creativity and lateral thinking. And no, it's not about your ability to turn a pizza box into a makeshift hat, although that does have its merits. Creativity is like the secret superpower of brainy people. It's the ability to see connections where others see only chaos, and to find innovative solutions to everyday problems. As the famous psychologist Joy Paul Guilford said, creativity is the key to education in its broadest sense and to solving humanity's most pressing problems. A study from Harvard University showed that people with high intelligence tend to be more creative. It's as if they have a laboratory of ideas in their brains, constantly mixing and combining concepts to create something new. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a box of Lego. Lateral thinking would be the ability to build a castle with pieces that are supposed to make a car, thinking outside the box by using the box as construction material. The Stoics, those ancient wise men, also had something to say about creativity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look deeply into yourself. There lies the source of good that may continuously spring forth if you dig continuously." He was basically saying, dig into your mind. There lies the creative treasure. But how can we cultivate this creativity? Here are some techniques. 1. Practice brainstorming absurd ideas. The more ridiculous the idea, the better. A raincoat for fish? Why not? In fact, it exists. I'm not joking. 2. Combine random concepts. Choose 2 random objects and try to create something new with them. A fork and a speaker? Boom, you've just invented the musical fork. 3. The famous inventor Thomas Edison once said, "To invent, you need a good imagination and a pile of junk." So the next time your room is a mess, just say you're cultivating your creativity. And speaking of inventors, did you know Leonardo da Vinci used to look at cloud shapes for inspiration? It's like playing a guessing game with the sky. So the next time you're caught gazing out the window at work, just say you're practicing your lateral thinking skills, Da Vinci style. Remember, creativity is not just for artists. It's a crucial skill in a rapidly changing world. As writer Isaac Asimov said, "The mind that opens to a new idea never returns to its original size." So the next time you face a problem, think like a creative ninja. Observe, question, imagine, and who knows, you might discover that you are smarter and more creative than you thought. After all, as Albert Einstein said, creativity is intelligence having fun. So go ahead. Have fun with your brain. Have you ever laughed so hard that your stomach hurt? Well, get ready, because we're about to dive into the 9th signal of intelligence, a sense of humor. And no, it's not about your ability to tell bad jokes at family gatherings, although that does require a certain kind of bravery. Humor is like the secret seasoning of intelligence. It's the ability to see the funny side of life, even when things get tough. As writer E. White said, humor is close to the great vein of truth. And he was absolutely right. Sometimes a good laugh can reveal more truths than 1,000 serious speeches. So what does humor have to do with intelligence? Well, quite a bit. Recent studies have shown that people with a good sense of humor tend to have higher cognitive ability and creativity. It's as if humor is the brain's lubricant, making ideas flow more easily. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a gym. Humor would be that personal trainer who makes you sweat, but also makes you laugh, challenges you, surprises you, and at the end of the day, makes you mentally stronger and more flexible. The Stoics, those ancient wise folks, also had something to say about humor. For example, Epictetus reminded us that laughter should neither be excessive nor frequent. But don't worry, we're not suggesting you become an emotionless robot. Rather, it's about finding that perfect balance between seriousness and lightness. So how can we cultivate our sense of humor? Here are some tips. Don't take yourself too seriously. Remember, you're an evolved monkey on a floating rock in space. A little cosmic perspective can work wonders. Look for the absurd side of everyday situations. Life is full of small ironies waiting to be discovered. Practice self-irony. Laughing at yourself is not only healthy, but also demonstrates emotional intelligence. Psychologist Paul McGee, an expert in the study of humor, suggests that a sense of humor is a skill that can be developed like a muscle. So don't worry if your jokes don't make the masses laugh just yet. With practice, you'll soon be delivering one-liners like a professional comedian, or at least like that funny uncle we all have in the family. And speaking of comedians, did you know that many of history's greatest thinkers had an excellent sense of humor? Mark Twain, for example, was known as much for his sharp wit as for his keen intelligence. He once said, "The secret to getting old is to live honestly, eat slowly, and lie about your age." Wise words indeed. So the next time you find yourself in a difficult situation, try to find the humorous side. Not only will you feel better, but you'll also be exercising your intelligence. As Charlie Chaplin said, "A day without laughter is a day wasted." Remember, humor is like a secret superpower. It helps you connect with others, deal with stress, and see the world from a unique perspective. So, go ahead. Be the superhero of humor in your daily life. After all, as Oscar Wilde said, life is too important to be taken seriously. Have you ever felt like your brain is a Ferrari stuck in rush hour traffic? Well, hold on, because we're about to hit the accelerator on your mind and explore the 10th signal of intelligence, the ability for deep concentration. In a world where mobile notifications ring more than church bells, the ability to fully immerse yourself in a task is like having a superpower. And no, I'm not talking about ignoring your partner when they ask you to take out the trash, although that also requires some skill. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, whose name is harder to pronounce than to spell, called this mental state flow. It's that magical moment when you're so absorbed in what you're doing that time seems to disappear, like when you end up watching cat videos at 3 a.m. and suddenly it's time to go to work. So what does this have to do with intelligence? Well, it turns out that this ability for deep concentration is like the turbo boost for your brain. It allows you to process information faster, solve complex problems, and be more creative. It's like having a state-of-the-art processor instead of one from the 90s that sounds like an old vacuum cleaner. The Stoics, those ancient philosophers who seemed to have an answer for everything, also had something to say about concentration. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, who wrote his thoughts while leading an empire, said, "Concentrate every nerve on achieving excellence." And no, he wasn't referring to your abs. So how can we cultivate this skill in a world designed to distract us? Here are some tricks. 1. Practice the Pomodoro technique. Work in 25-minute intervals with 5-minute breaks. It's like high-intensity interval training, but for your brain. 2. Create a distraction-free environment. Just putting your phone on airplane mode while it's next to you doesn't count. 3. Meditate. Yes, I know it sounds like a hippie thing, but even the toughest Stoics did it. It's like a gym for your attention. 4. Sleep well. Your brain needs rest as much as you need coffee in the morning. Neuroscientist Earl Miller from MIT discovered that our brains can only handle a few tasks at a time. So when you think you're multitasking, you're actually just rapidly switching from one task to another. It's like trying to juggle too many balls, and in the end they all end up on the floor. Remember, deep concentration is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. So next time you find yourself wasting time on social media, imagine you're a Zen monk focused on enlightenment, or at least on finishing that report you were supposed to submit yesterday. And if all this seems like too much work, think about the rewards. People who master deep concentration are not only more productive but also experience more flow moments, which are directly related to happiness and satisfaction. It's like having a winning lottery ticket hidden in your brain. Have you ever thought that your mistakes are like those secret ingredients that make a recipe unforgettable? Well, get ready, because we're about to discover how missteps can be the springboard to brilliance. Welcome to the final signal of intelligence, the ability to learn from mistakes. Imagine for a moment that your brain is like a detective, and each mistake is a clue in the grand mystery of success. The smartest people aren't those who never make mistakes, but those who know how to mine gold from their blunders. As the great Thomas Edison said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." What a way to see the glass as half full, huh? But you don't need to be a genius inventor to master this art. The Stoics, those ancient sages, were talking about this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and part-time philosopher, said, "Our actions can be impediments, but they cannot be harms if we do not judge them as such." In other words, your mistakes are only failures if you choose to see them that way. So how can we turn our missteps into springboards? First, embrace the mistake as if it were your favorite uncle at Christmas. Yes, even that embarrassing error that makes you want to hide under a rock. Second, ask yourself the magic question: what can I learn from this? And third, apply that lesson to your next attempt. It's like playing a video game. Each time you lose, you learn the tricks to advance to the next level. Modern psychology supports this idea. Carol Dweck, a Stanford psychologist, talks about the growth mindset. People with this mindset see challenges and errors as opportunities to grow, not as signs of their incompetence. Who knew? It turns out that making mistakes makes you smarter. Speaking of mistakes, did you know that even great geniuses goofed up? Einstein once said that gravitational waves didn't exist, only for them to be discovered decades later. Even the brightest minds have their off moments. But don't worry if you're not Einstein. I had to upload many videos before getting my first viral hits. It's just about being consistent, not giving up, and learning from each mistake. Every day, I apply what I learn to make each video a bit better than the last one, thanks to you and your messages. So the next time you mess up, instead of getting frustrated, put on your detective hat. Analyze what went wrong, why, and how you can improve next time. It's like being a mad scientist, but instead of creating monsters, you're creating a better version of yourself. Remember, failure doesn't exist. There are only lessons disguised as setbacks. As the famous basketball player Michael Jordan said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." So what's the final takeaway from all this? Intelligence isn't something you have or don't have. It's something you cultivate day by day. It's like a mental garden. If you water and care for it, it will flourish. If you neglect it, well, it will end up full of weeds and stale thoughts. The real challenge is applying all this to your daily life. It's not about becoming a sage overnight, although if you do, please share your secret. It's a gradual process, a journey of self-discovery and growth. Remember, personal growth is like planting a tree. The best time to start was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. If you've made it this far, write deep intelligence in the comments so I'll know who the victorious ones are who stayed until the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content like this in the future. Share this video with those who might find it useful and consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. Link in the pinned comment. Also, I've included the download link for my ebook in the comments. Now, I recommend watching one of these two videos to keep learning about Stoicism and human psychology. A big hug and see you next time.